Wallachian voivoda Vlad III, the Impaler, is well known all over the world, both for the gruesome stories that circulated about him over time, and due to an Irish writer who used him as the main character for a fantasy book regarding a Transylvanian vampire. His aura was enhanced by his military exploits and by his ruthlessness, both in war and on a domestic level. When we talk about him, we should take into account at least two sides to his real story: the chronicles and official data regarding his military campaigns, the writings against him during and after his lifetime, and last but not least, the local legends about his sense of justice and cruelty. Welcome to Tangy History. The official chronicles, whether Wallachian, Hungarian, or Ottoman, are supported by various other documents, letters, reports, etc., that speak between the lines about a classical medieval European ruler who simply wanted to secure the throne, which was rightfully his, impose justice and discipline in his country, and scare off foreign enemies. There are a few descriptions of his military accomplishments and prowess in leading these campaigns. Some subsequent stories also mention the massacres he commanded against citizens. His third rule was likewise brief and ended in his death. His second rule gained popularity after he lived at the court of his relative, John Hunyadi. When Hunyadi prepared to attack the Turks in Belgrade in 1456, Vlad led the forces left to secure the mountain passes between Wallachia and Transylvania in the Saxon area. He crossed into Wallachia around the end of July or early August and reclaimed the throne. Unfortunately, we have no knowledge about the circumstances surrounding this tragedy. Around August 15, he became the new voivoda, and one of his first acts was to publicly execute Vladislav II, the usurper of the throne. His next activity was to execute many of the boyars, loyal to Vladislav, who had been involved in the murder of his father and brother. There was a short civil war mentioned in the documents, when during at least one battle, Vlad crushed the boyar opposition and executed entire families in gruesome displays of sheer cruelty. Once he had made his point with the boyars, he turned towards external but close enemies. Two pretenders to the Wallachian throne, Dan and Vlad the Monk, were still in Transylvania, in good relations with the Saxons, and surrounded by the boyars who had escaped Vlad's wrath. After failing to convince the Saxons to stop aiding these two, Vlad crossed into Transylvania after Easter 1457, set fire to various villages, destroyed any opposition, and took many prisoners such as men, women, young and old, and had them impaled in Wallachia. While he could not besiege the Saxon towns, he could at least destroy their hinterland and execute all the prisoners without discussing terms. The two main Saxon towns, Hermannstadt, Sibiu, and Kronstadt, Brasov, in revenge, started to infringe upon the commercial treaties, and they confiscated goods from the Wallachian merchants and even executed some by impaling them. Hence, Vlad found himself again at war with the Saxons at the beginning of 1459. He called back his merchants from Transylvania and started punishing and impaling the Saxon merchants in Wallachia and confiscating their goods. In April 1460, with help from the crown, Wallachian emigres, and Saxon towns, the pretender, Dan, eventually crossed the border into Wallachia. Somewhere after the border in the mountains, his army was completely routed. The prisoners, including women and children, were impaled, alongside the corpses of the fallen soldiers. Dan was captured, forced to dig his own grave, and listen to his requiem, and was then beheaded. Fearing the worst, Hungary, Transylvania, and the Saxon cities immediately sent 55 agents to Vlad to placate the Wallachian voivoda. Vlad had spikes prepared for them, and they were aware of this, but he did not meet with them for 5 weeks. Vlad crossed the border into Transylvania in early May and began destroying farms, fields, and the outskirts of towns, as well as seizing prisoners. It is reported that he had scores, if not hundreds, of individuals impaled in front of Kronstadt as a reminder of the horrible assistance they had provided to his enemies. Other sources mention whole villages massacred with people cut like cabbage, and other prisoners beheaded or taken to Wallachia and impaled there. King Matthias, who was not very friendly before, immediately changed his view towards Vlad and asked the Transylvanians to stop harming the Wallachian merchants and travelers. The Saxon towns obeyed, and peace came again. In his letter to these cities, Vlad stated that he was determined to settle the score with the regions in southern Transylvania, where Vlad the monk and other Wallachians were still hiding, and requested that the Saxons not intervene. The raid occurred in the early half of August and destroyed a few settlements. His army looted and captured prisoners, who were, as the sources state again, hacked into pieces, hung, or impaled in public. The impostor, Vlad the monk, was not apprehended. Very soon after, the Ottomans, led by Vidin governor Hamza Pasha, planned to take Vlad near the Danube, but the voivoda discovered the plan, assaulted them, massacred and captured them, and impaled the prisoners, including Hamza, on the highest pole. His head was severed and sent as a gift to King Matthias. Over 25,000 people were killed in the subsequent big raid south of the Danube, which aimed to deplete the Sultan's supply base. Many of them were civilians. No detainees or hostages are mentioned in the sources. In medieval stories, many of which were made up by Transylvanian Saxons at the end of the 15th century and sent to the Hungarian king, Vlad is portrayed as a vicious and bloody ruler who impaled hundreds or thousands of people for any fault, no matter how minor, while enjoying the view and stench, eating his meals under the decaying corpses, and even inviting boyars and emissaries to join him. If they complained, they would be put on a spike. Another story has him rounding up all the poor and beggars in the kingdom and feeding them in a great wooden building, which he then set on fire, explaining to the boyars that the problem had been handled and that the land was now only populated by the wealthy. The story of his activities with the golden chalice is the most revealing of them all. The voivoda ordered a giant golden cup to be placed at a well-known fountain so that everyone may drink. It is stated that while he was alive, the golden cup remained there because everyone was terrified of the punishment that awaited everyone who stole or committed other crimes like impalement. While Vlad's name seems to be linked for eternity with this gruesome instrument, it should be clear that all European countries used a variety of instruments of torture and execution, including impaling. The idea was not to immediately kill the victim, but to make them bleed and keep them alive for a while in agony while being plucked by birds and insects, being thus an example for all others, that anyone who would disobey the king or voivoda would meet this end. The image would be horrifying, as the poor victims die slowly, over days or maybe even more than a week, in the heat, cold, or rain, with body parts starting to fall from them as the bodies decayed. The stench of the execution places would be tremendous. In the summer of 1462, the Sultan stopped his army, stood in astonishment, dismounted from his horse, and performed a prayer after seeing a forest of impaled Turks in front of the Wallachian city of Turkoviste. This did not stop him from continuing the campaign and replacing Vlad the Impaler on the throne with his brother, although it would have been Vlad's lifetime achievement to have had the Sultan impaled on the highest spike for him to view his most treasured victory. But history would go the opposite way. After he was killed, Vlad's head was skinned, stuffed, and sent to the Sultan, who knew that he finally had some peace at his Danubian border. While his brutal, ruthless, and cruel tactics and reputation for impaling his enemies have earned him a place in history as a bloodthirsty, deranged tyrant, which he probably was, he is also remembered as someone who fought against a much stronger Ottoman Empire and defended his people with success on numerous occasions. And that's all for this video, fellas. Let us know what you think of the life of this ruler in the comments below. If you enjoyed watching this video, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.